What's going on, pre-chiro students? It's Dr. Ben. I'm a chiropractor. I'm really excited about today's show because we get to connect with somebody who I've known for quite a while now that I actually got to see right when they got to chiropractic school. And this podcast is for pre-chiro students just to get their feet wet, just to get your feet wet before you get to chiropractic school. So anyway, Dr. Darren Murphy coming from Colorado. Dr. Darren, can you just get us started by sharing a little bit about what your background was before chiropractic school? What was going on in your world
Sure.
and what attracted you to this path?
Yeah, I was well to make a 25-year story very, very short. Wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, had tons of injuries, orthopedic injuries. Everything got broken as a kid, but everything got put back together in the same shape or better than I was. And so I was fascinated with the idea of how the body heals and regenerates. So I did the pre-med thing in undergrad, but didn't get into medical school. Looking back, it was an actual huge blessing in my life. And so fast forward many years later, I was living in my parents' basement for 3 years, from 24 to 27 years old. My brother really got me inspired to become a chiropractor. He was under chiropractic care. He kept telling me, Darren, you're a chiropractor, you just don't know it. So I denied it. I denied it. And I denied it for years, probably 3 years, the whole time I was in my parents' basement, until finally that spark really happened. You know, I had gotten under chiropractic care, so that helped. I was feeling the benefits of what it was like to have a less interfered with central nervous system. And finally, I went out to Life West. I went to a Champions Weekend. Joe Dispenza was speaking at that Champions Weekend, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I was hooked from that minute. And so it took many, many years, but I like to credit my brother with being my main inspiration, seeing something in me that I did not see in myself. And this calling to become a facilitator of greater levels of expression. You can't deny it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's your purpose, if it's your passion, if it's your mission in life, it might take you a few more years to become a chiropractor, but it will happen sooner or later if it's meant to be, for sure.
Very interesting. Becoming a chiropractor is such a spiritual path. You have to really go inward. And when you first got to school, there were illustrations that you were making. I call them symbols on the wall. Can you kind of reflect on maybe where that came from, that inspiration came from, and maybe why your brother saw that in you?
I'm impressed you remember that, Ben. That's impressive. Very cool. So essentially I'm a solar channel. So when I glance at the sun, I see these hieroglyphic-esque symbols out here in my third eye field. And, it took me some years to begin to understand. And I by no means say I have full understanding of what they are, what they represent. But how I represent and understand them now is that they are certain energetic frequencies. They're signatures from source, wherever and whatever source might be, right? And so when I glance at the sun, I receive these symbols. I'm receiving information because my brain is inputting the cosmic rays. It's receiving the cosmic rays, but then my brain, my mind is outputting these energetic symbols, right? That I can actually see and make sense of. And so how that actually, I believe, makes me unique in the chiropractic world is that when I make that adjustment, right? That energy, that coding, that information that is within me is transferred into the person on the table. And so that's one of the main ways that I help humanity evolve, is by bringing in this cosmic information, these solar rays, right? So when I say deliver the lightning, that's what the lightning is. It's that cosmic information that I'm a vessel for. Remember, we as chiropractors, we're bridges, right? From the spiritual to that which is the physical, right? And that, I believe, is one of the ways that I've been able to tap in to be that bridge, to be that conduit, is a really good term I like to use, from that which is above to that which is below.
Yeah, I like to describe it as we are instruments of change, head, heart, and hands. And as you say, we are connected spiritually with that person that we're working with. And not too many people in quote unquote healthcare settings are coming from that place. So reflecting on our messages with one another years ago, I had just offered a few hour workshop at my office just to
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
with students. And you had written me this long message saying, you know, I think I'm going to show up this weekend. I'm going to hang out with you and we're going to learn, but I am going on a service trip and I want to deliver the highest quality expression of chiropractic adjusting that I possibly can to those
Yeah.
people. So can you tell me about your experiences during this seminar on
Yeah.
your service trips? And I would love for you to just reflect on those service trips you took as a student. What did they do to help you really transform yourself into a professional level chiropractor?
Sure. Well, first, what I think needs acknowledged is kind of like, I feel like I'm in your chiropractic downline in a sense. You were a huge inspiration to two of my primary teachers through school and even now, and that is John Martinez and Brett Jones. You were one of the sparks for Brett Jones to go to school, right? And he is one of my closest friends, mentors, confidants, spiritual advisors, you name it, right? And so, one, I want to honor and respect you in that regard and acknowledge that and the role you've played in my development, which has been absolutely awesome. So I think that needs to be stated first. Thank you. Appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
I was, and still am, it's just in a different form, very tenacious in the actual application of chiropractic, the adjustment. To me, when I got to school, there was nothing better than the actual doing of it, right? And so I took upon a tenacious path. I did 10 chiropractic service trips in school. But here's the thing, people can get confused with chiropractic service trips. People can think that, oh, I'm going on a service trip to learn how to adjust. That's bullshit, right? That should never be the case. Never be the case, right? My opinion or anyone else's opinion. In my opinion, you should train your ass off before you go on a service trip. And then when you think you're ready, I'm not here to determine when people are ready to go on a trip, but when you think you're ready and when you think you can give your best gifts to the people on your table, wherever that may be, Haiti, India, El Salvador, Mexico, just some of the places I went, you name it, then you're ready, right? Now, I started at the end of my fourth quarter in school and essentially went on one trip every single break throughout all of school. Well, here's the thing. I trained for a whole year to be able to do that first trip. I did a couple of your seminars, Ben, at your office up in Oakland. I did, Adjusting Ninjas, which is now Kairos Training Culture, every quarter starting the second week of school. And I averaged anywhere from 5 to 7 seminars per quarter. After a year, I was ready to do my first trip. Now, that's not the typical path for most people. It's unfortunate that there is an attitude of mediocrity in chiropractic school where people think that, oh, hey, I'm in a professional school now. The school's going to give me exactly what the hell I need to become successful. I'm telling you right here, right now, that is wrong. If there's any administrators listening to this message right now, you think I'm right? Because there's no one that graduates chiropractic school having just done the bare minimum in chiropractic school that comes out a ball and adjuster. Not one at all. Sorry, newsflash. It's not going to happen, right? You have to put the time, the energy, and the effort in behind the scenes, early in the morning, late at night, after school, evening training groups. Because that's where the real magic is. That's where the real tinkering is, the exploration, the frustration, right? There is beauty in the frustration and the madness that it is to learn how to become an artful facilitator of the chiropractic adjustment. Tough work. No one will ever tell you, oh, learning how to adjust was the easiest thing ever. Bullshit. It's not the case, right? And so for me, circling back now, I was an avid trainer in chiropractic, and each trip I went on, I was able to serve to a higher level. Now, the 10th trip I went on, I had an incredibly different way of facilitating people on the table than I did my first one. But I was ready for that first one, and I still served those people on the table. I went to Haiti. I went to Haiti twice, in the fourth quarter, in the fifth quarter. and it was an incredibly beautiful experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I went through school, I wanted different things in my chiropractic service trip. So I went on John Martinez's trip 5 times to Malinalco, Mexico. And then I went to a service trip in India through Life West, and they were all beautiful and amazing in their own right. Some high volume, some low volume, some low art, some very high art. And so I feel I had a great outside school experience in that regard.
Mm-hmm. I want to thank you for acknowledging me, and I also want to take a moment right now just to reflect, and then I'll acknowledge you. So when I was a chiropractic student, as you said, there was a culture where a very select few were going beyond and
Yeah.
were really trying to stretch what was possible in the eyes of those who they touched, fellow students, that they cared enough about to share with. And I always would tell stories of that dark, shadowy corner in the hallways where you would have an upper quarter student bring
Yeah.
you to and kind of just school you to the game of like what's possible and just
Mhm.
stretch your imagination. And I had that opportunity, and I just wanted to give that to everybody that I saw coming into school. So that was always my intention. And remembering back to me having just graduating and reflecting on what you were up to, I remember seeing you making videos where you were in front of a board, and yes, it was in the context of adjusting ninjas, but you were really stepping into this role as being a teacher, a facilitator. And I think that you made the most of the opportunities you were given, and I just want
Mhm.
to acknowledge that, because I think that um, there are opportunities given to students, and you just need to see it as the student and see yourself in that role, or see yourself possibly going in that direction, and
Mhm.
really work on it internally so that you can, if it calls to you, go that way. So I just want to have you reflect for a moment on what it was like to step into the role of a teacher and a facilitator, and to really give back and leave a legacy for the next generation of
Yeah.
of chiropractic students.
Great question. Before I get to that, I want to reiterate something that you said is that there's always the dark corners, there's always the early mornings, there's always those training opportunities that exist with older students. And so when I got to school, the first two people I got introduced to were Josh Kaya and Joe Zingone. You probably don't know who these guys are, people watching this, but these were two of the most fierce training advocates at Life West at the time. And so they took me under their wing, and they were able to show me what it was like to be mentored and tutored by an older student. And
Mhm.
it took me stepping into that opportunity at the right place at the right time and saying, hey, I don't know anything, but I'm here to be a sponge. And I have all the time, energy, and effort to put into this because I want to be badass, right? I want to be a masterful adjuster. I want to facilitate at high levels. And I want to bring chiropractic back to what the old gangsters were doing back in the day. Like they weren't worried about back pain. They weren't worried about neck pain, right? They were healing people from these big, big issues, right?
Mhm.
And so I took that, and I still take that every single chance. That thing doesn't stop. It's an attitude. It's part of me, right? So yes, I was. You could say I'm always a student. That will never stop, right? And I think that's a big part of the attitude. You know, Jay Comerick said, you know Jay very well. He said, the minute you become bored and not curious is the moment your growth pretty much stops, and you're dead in the water, essentially. So this attitude of always remaining curious, right? For me now, a lot of my curiosity is in around the business of chiropractic, and how do I facilitate more people, and how do I do that effectively and efficiently, and help my associates learn how to do the exact same thing, right? It's not like, what are the fine points of this, you know, cervical adjustment? No, it's not there anymore, but it's in a different way. And so to become a teacher, I've always had um, a leadership role in my life in some way. And I saw an amazing opportunity to step into this leadership role throughout my time at Life West. Primarily, that was stepping into the role of a lead facilitator at the club level at school. To me, that was a very revered position it was not easy to attain. You needed to do many years and many quarters and do many things to get to that level to where you could influence students at that level. And I started that 5th quarter after I came back from my first Haiti trip. I started training for that, and that I facilitated for 10 quarters at Life West. And then as I came into practice with Brett at the Source in Oakland, I transitioned into the lead facilitator role with Kairos Training Culture, and that has allowed a beautiful expression of facilitation. When you go to so many seminars and you do so many of these outside school things, you can see the beauty and the richness that is in our profession. Because let's be honest, that's where the masters teach, right? I'm not saying I'm a master, but that's a word I think that can be manipulated around. I'm still, not exactly a neophyte, but we're still just getting started, right? But the people like your Eric Rubins and your Jay Kamariks and these people that have spent their lives in this profession, this is where they teach, right? You don't get that in school. And so I think if there's anything I can impress upon people that are, pre-chiropractic, thinking about becoming a chiropractor, or maybe you've committed or just about to start, it's that there exists this beautiful, amazing curriculum outside the typical school curriculum. It's a parallel. let me see if I don't really have anything to show, but think of it like this. You have your school curriculum. This helps get you licensed, right? This is your sciences. This is your clinic. This is your extremely basic technique, right? Basic bitch technique right over here, right? Outside school, in the seminars, in the trainings, this is where the magic and the esoteric and the non-physical and the facilitatorship. Facilitator. This is where you go from being a chiropractor to being a facilitator of life. This is where that exists outside the confines of school, right? Because in the confines of school is the bounds and the container of the CCE, right? Outside of that is this amazing expression that is chiropractic that I was always way more attracted to. I did the school stuff. I wanted to become licensed. I wanted to be an awesome clinician, but I also wanted to be this tapped in, connected, quantum, lightning delivering adjustment chiropractor that can work between the worlds, right? And for me, I spent most of my time outside school. I learned 95% of my adjusting outside school, right? From these masterful-esque adjusters. Long-winded answer to your question, but there was a lot of juice there for people who are willing to extract it.
Most definitely there was. Thank you. Yeah, and I just keep coming back to this, what I believe is one of the juiciest moments in getting to know you, which was the night that I was personally celebrated. I was coming back from a personal service trip. I had just graduated. I was coming back from Honduras. I went there by myself, and it was at your roommate's house, and I got to see all my tribe from Life West coming back to the U.S. And I believe you were starting school on Monday. This was like a Saturday night or a Friday night. And what a time. That was an amazing moment. And what I want to reflect on is just maybe some of the challenges that you experienced that week and in the beginning of school, just to really focus in on the audience that we're speaking to. There was a lot of excitement in the room that night about being a chiropractor, just the love that everybody had this energy behind it because we had been spending that time in those seminars on the weekends, because we had a vision of ourselves that was much bigger than when we first got there. So I'm just curious of if you could kind of just reflect really briefly on what it was like to be surrounded, like you said, by a Josh Kaya or Joe Zangone or the people that were at the party that night, and how important it is to surround yourself with people or go seek out those people to surround yourself with early on, but also just what some of the challenges are of maybe that transition time going right into school.
Yeah, I think, and I have a unique perspective on that because, I was 28 when I entered school. And so I entered school later, right? So I had been through many iterations of significant change. in
Mhm.
my life. You know, I transitioned from high school to college, college into the professional world to another professional world to home in my parents' basement, right? And so I had done a lot of these big transitions. But you know,
Mhm.
there's a lot of students that start school right out of college, right? And
Mhm.
so there is a lot of discomfort in moving across country or moving across a couple states or moving into another town or city where you don't know anybody, right? And so that's uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
You know, there can be introverts and extroverts. For extroverts, it's probably easier, right? I was probably a combination of the two. You know, grew up in Wyoming. I was in my parents' basement for a long time, coming to school, and so like there was like, oh my God, who are all these people? They're really jacked on what the hell they're talking about, right? Like super jacked. I mean, um, Jeff was there that night, both Jeffs, right?
Mhm.
The new roommate Tony Murray was there. Tony's doing
Mhm.
great these days, and so there is a moments of discomfort, right? But like anything, it's how well do you lean in to those moments of discomfort? How good are you at getting outside your comfort zone,
Mhm.
right? Because just like any big transition in life, the riches are there, right? Like I knew I was at the right school, and like I still refer people to Life West. Like I would do it all over again, right? There was a lot of beauty in the Bay Area. Bay Area is different right now, right? And
Mhm.
so uh, you have to be able to go into that discomfort of a new environment,
Mhm.
of being like, I don't know why I'm here, but I know that my soul is meant to be here in this time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of that, like, and sometimes I didn't know how to handle that,
Mhm.
but now I'm that person. I'm that person who always talks about chiropractic, probably too much, right?
Mhm.
Who, but I'm not gonna be at fault for that, right? Like
Mhm.
that's what ultimately attracts people into the practice now and attracts people to seminar is that vibration, right? That vibration of being obsessed, right? Like I'm obsessed with human development and facilitation from people in one state of being to another. Just like
Mhm.
you enter school as in one state of being, right? A lot of people enter as being super subluxated and super jacked up, and they need the process that is chiropractic school to actually help heal them, right? So that when they graduate and come into this field, they are now at a place where they can facilitate others. Because I
Mhm.
was super jacked up when I got to school. I didn't even know how jacked up my body was. I knew it
Mhm.
wasn't quite there, but I needed everything that chiropractic had, that my interns had, that all of the docs of seminars that I went to had to get me to a place to begin that healing for others when I got out of school.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
When you talk about being obsessed, it really strikes home with me of like, why am I doing this project? I'm not being paid to do this project. I'm
Mhm.
not selling anything. I'm really selling an opportunity to people to enter into a path that you become obsessed with your
Yes.
human nature, with how do you adapt to your environment. We're living in a time now where if you don't have a mindset that's adaptive,
Mhm.
then you become a victim of circumstance real easily because there's so many pressures and influences externally that are pushing people and really putting pressures on people and creating a lot of noise and distractions for people. And I think that this project throughout the years, whether I was struggling in practice or whether I was struggling to get out of school and figured where I want to practice, or even in school, I worked on this project all throughout school and even through my practice years as almost like a therapeutic meditation. Like, how do I come back to myself? How do I return to what's really going on with
Mhm.
me and people like me? And how can I leave this world a better place? Having had given the opportunity to have this adaptive mindset. So I'm just curious, what's going on in your mind these days from just like what do you keep coming back to throughout the years? I know you said you're obviously obsessed with just like the human experience and
Mhm.
development as it happens over time, but what particular moments do you really key in on a maybe not a regular basis but a somewhat regular basis and keep finding yourself coming back to?
Sure. And this is a good piece here, and this applies to whatever stage of the game you're at. surrounding yourself with people who are better than you and know more than you. I still do that every day. Every opportunity I get to learn from people like Brett Jones, Lance Von Stade, I go and see John Martinez whenever I can, at least once a month when he's here practicing in Denver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I still keep myself in the vibration and in the environment of those people that I highly value in my life in terms of professional development and learning how to facilitate and people. There's other people for other things, obviously. But when you're on this path of becoming or being a chiropractor, it doesn't stop once you graduate school at all. No, it continues even more, right? And so now, I go to the facilitator camps. I go to it was Soul Revival down in Tucson where Brett just moved to. So I continue to put myself in the learning opportunities of people who are willing and open to teach. I still have that sponge mindset. One of the things that I think made me an effective student, an effective practitioner, and an effective facilitator of life is that I implement stuff so fast, right? When I go, hey, so-and-so, I'm experiencing this in my life. What are the 2 or 3 things you would recommend for me to remedy that or fix that? Boom, I'm doing those things either that day or the next day in practice, right? And so that's huge. I always come back to that. I never come back to it. I just am that, right? And so I think for students or pre-students who are thinking about doing this path or who are about to begin, it's grasping that attitude of finding those older students, those older mentors, those docs in practice who they really resonate with. Like I've seen the people you have on this Precairo podcast, Ben. There's a lot of really amazing people, right? A lot of really amazing people. I think you just had Paulo Fili on. The dude is awesome, right? Dude is absolutely awesome. And so I think what you've done here is you've put out a lot of really amazing people that people can kind of pick and choose from. Some people might not resonate with all of my message, but maybe a bit from me, some from Paul, some from Brett, and a lot of the other really great people. And then once the people really embody those lessons, it can help create an entirely new path for them once they get to school. So I think that's really awesome.
100%.
You're putting a lot of good karmic energy out into the world, man.
Yes, that's what this is all about, brother. I mean, we need it. We need to really, as Jay used to say, be louder than those that are coming towards you. Like you have to be louder, and not necessarily from a vocal standpoint, but just from an energetic standpoint of putting out something that is very powerful. And I really give thanks a lot for the messages you just shared in a very concise, condensed, and you really kept it sharp. So I really appreciate that, because really we live in a TikTok attention span culture. If you can't say what you're trying to say in 2-3 minutes, people might lose you. And you did an amazing job at that. Thank you so much. I do want to lovingly challenge, like we just went back and forth with me saying that I keep coming back to something, and then you saying I keep coming back. No, I am that. And I think that the more I grow and the more that I experience life, the more I realize that it is part of life for us to fall off center. And we have to have the awareness that we did fall off center to be able to come back to our center, to who we are. And I'm not saying the way that you stated it was different or wrong. I'm just wanting to kind of explore deeper down in that little moment right there. I think that making it okay for somebody to be off center and to not be on their right path, and just encouraging them to find their path, because I think that a lot of the people that are in the audience that I'm speaking to right now as a pre-Chiro student, you're really trying to find the right path for you. You're trying to align in your purpose. Who do you want to serve? Where do you want to serve? How do you want to serve? How many people do you really want to take care of in any given day? How many types of modalities do you want to use, or do you want to just be really amazing at one thing? And so anyway, I'm just curious what your reflection is on what I just shared in regards to what kinds of wisdom have you gained in most recent times of just like life and just reflecting on some of the important things that that keep you. I know that you said coming back to the people that are already aligned within themselves, and I'm
Mhm.
also curious from your own personal journey, what new awarenesses or what new wisdom you have from just like how do you reconnect to yourself?
Sure. Recuperation is big. Like I'm learning new things about recuperation right now. Like I'm in a really awesome growth phase right now. I'll just be very honest. We're seeing more people at the Source Chiropractic Denver than we've ever seen. And so creating the bounds for recuperation, right? Like it's easy to put an extra, 3 or 4 new patient exams on a day off, right? Just because we can. But just because we can, does that mean you should, right? Like
Mhm.
I work full days Tuesdays, full days Thursdays, and like, morning and afternoon shifts, seeing a good number of people. Like if anyone's seen my videos, like it's manual adjusting. We're making deep structural adjustments. Like it's a workout in and of itself. But 8 years of training has gone into being able to do that, right?
Mhm.
It's a good thing to be able to take days off in between large adjusting days, right? Like it would not be effective and efficient and sustainable for me to do, 10 shifts of adjusting lots of volume of people every week. I'd crush myself,
Mhm.
right? And so the awareness that, and I learned this from Lance Von State, and I think this can apply to a lot of different things wherever you're at in the game, right? It's that, remember, you do not get stronger from the actual act of working out, from the actual act of tearing the muscle in a bicep curl. You get stronger from the quality of your recuperation, right? And so my days off, right, which are really admin days, right? The days that I'm not doing the physicality of practice, those are the days that I'm actually getting better. Those are the days that actually make me better for the days that I'm in serving the people, right?
Mhm.
And so that's important as it is for us now in practice, as it is for a student in school, right? Or before school, right? Because it's like coming in with a mindset of you're going to turn the crank during the quarter or the trimester or whatever, but finding that strategy that works best for you to recover from the trauma of the school on the break is hugely important. Now, I took a unique path. I would keep doing chiropractic things even on break, right? But that's what filled me up. The act of service and giving and loving and serving out of my own abundance while I was on break, that's what filled me up and recuperated and re-inspired me to take on the trauma that was the rigorousness of the quarter or the try, right?
Mhm.
And so it's all about how you frame it and how you understand what recuperation is for you. Now, my recuperation is different these days than it was. I'm not going and doing a bunch of service trips now. It's like I'm in service all the time throughout the week. Recuperation looks different for me now. And
Mhm.
that to me, if I would have had that understanding as I do now before I came to school, it might have looked different, right? But I was an all go, no quit. I'm an Aries warrior, Aries fire. Let's freaking go. I surrounded myself with people like, let's go, no stop. And so
Mhm.
my
Awesome.
my life
Awesome.
is kind of like that going through
Yeah.
school, but it's a different pace now.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Um, wow. We could keep talking. I would love to sort of bring this home and kind
Hmm.
of be respectful of your time. A lot of the times when I contextualize the profession, I say, most people are moving towards sedentary professional paths, where
Hmm.
they're, I dare say, a slave to the computer, but they basically have to sit in front of a computer or stand if they want to do their job. And then there's occupational athletes, like professional athletes, people that their job is to perform. And I feel like we're in kind of a happy balance in between the two of those, where you do, and this is all coming from you reflecting that you had admin days and that you have service days, which are very physical, which
Hmm.
are very emotional, and you're holding space for so many people. So I'm wondering if you could kind of just contextualize the chiropractic path, with that same energy of how we blend both
Mhm.
of these, and also just touch on some of the skill sets that you have had to develop as a business owner,
Sure.
as a teammate, as a manager, and then also as a facilitator, because the people that work at your office, you're also helping facilitate
Yeah.
their gifts.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of meat on that bone. Let's try to condense it in as little time as possible. Um, you will you will use your body, and you will be the type of chiropractor that you train to be. Right. I am a large human. I am 6'5". I'm 200 pounds. I'm fairly well built, and I can bring a lot of force when necessary to a person's system to affect significant change. Right now, just because I can doesn't mean I do every single time. I adjust newborns. I adjust people who are in their 80s and 90s, and everybody in between. Right, and so know that my practice is more often than not a reflection of my size and how I can deliver those gifts to a body, right? The majority of my practice is not tonal. I'll say that much, right? It's just not, right? I can produce a significant force, right? But I've trained to be able to do that. I've trained to be like, it was, oh damn, who was it? Oh, it might have been Ian Davis Tremaine along the way. He's like, you are your size for a reason, right? He's like, train to give the best that you can with the body that you've been given, right? And so as you come into school and develop and grow throughout school, like maybe it's a certain technique, maybe it's a blend of techniques, maybe it's just in your communication of how are you using your earth machine, right? Your human meat sack, right? To give and to apply the chiropractic principles as best as possible, right? I continue to I physically train, I run, I weight train, I do all these things 3-4 times a week, right? Like I have to stay in shape to give my best gifts and to be an effective, efficient, stable chiropractor, right? I literally I have to be strong to do what I do, right? I have to, right? And here's the thing. When I am in great shape and I am exercising, I attract more new patients every single time. There is a bioenergetic emission, you could say, of when chiropractor is healthy and in alignment with body, mind, and spirit, more people are attracted to that. I've seen that happen time and time again. It's nice outside. I'm starting to run more, right? I'm seeing more new patients in practice. There's a connection there, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of training to be a business owner, I learned a lot of what I know from Brett Jones and Eric Rubin, right? Like I was fortunate enough to be an associate at the source, but my associateship was not a technique adjusting driven associateship. It was more of a business associateship because Brett knew and I knew from the beginning, I'm not a lifelong associate. Like I'm stepping into an ownership role within 2 years, right? And so our conversations were always around, okay, how to think and act like an owner, right? Not just an associate. Now I was an associate and I loved being an associate, and I was able to essentially create the whole next phase of my life in ownership as an associate because I was able to do so well in that practice and see so many people as an associate. And so, a question for, students, pre-car students is, do you want to be an associate? Do you want to be an owner right out of the gate? If you don't know, I always recommend be an associate. Find that doc that inspires you and is successful in practice so that you can learn and grow and learn to emulate them, but give your own twist, give your own expression on it. And how I continue to grow and evolve in a business realm right now is being surrounded by business owners and business people who are doing better than me. Like that's what's great about, the Source Chiropractic family is that you have very capable owners in Brett and Jordan who have been doing this longer and have been quote unquote more successful and served more people. So if something comes up in practice, I simply ask them, right? And having the humility to say, I don't know, I need help. Will you help me? That attitude, I think, has served me very well throughout
Mhm,
the years.
mhm, mhm. I appreciate your energy today, Darren. This has been amazing. This
No.
conversation, you rocked it. It's super dope because, I think now we have the majority of the KTC family represented on here. We don't have Jordan yet. And then there's a number of other people that have sprouted out of the
Mhm.
tree, no doubt. And I'm just talking about the people that I'm personally connected to. And it'll be amazing to have a little compilation of just the energy that you guys bring, because there is a different type of tone to these interviews that I do with your lead facilitator group.
Mhm.
You guys are passionate, you're excellent communicators, and you have this ability to really distill information into a way that is palatable and is easily received. So it's been a pleasure just to
Mhm.
highlight and celebrate your tribe, because I think that the more students before they go to chiropractic school that could be exposed to people like you and the tribe that you
Mhm.
have become a part of and become a pillar within, it just is going to enhance their experience so much. I think that it sets them on a trajectory. It puts them on a really special plane of, how do I surround myself with people like this when I arrive at school? Where can I identify people that are training before school starts or after school ends, and that
Mhm.
are that are really going and making the most of their breaks. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
for
Like,
embodying like what it looks like to be a focused chiropractic student, and to really level up just what it looks like to kind of enter into the world as someone who's trained to become a professional chiropractor, because there's different levels to this. Just like a sport, there's a professional level of
mhm.
practicing chiropractic, and you seem to have really recognized that early on, and you just told the
Mhm.
story so well of how you were different, and how you didn't follow the pack or follow the herd. And hopefully we can get the herd moving like you were moving, and that's really the goal.
I know there's a certain energy input that is always being put in, and there's more impetus now, and there's more mass moving now in terms of chiropractic training than I think there's ever been. Right now, is it the majority of students? No, I don't think so. But it's way more than it used to be. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's way more inspired people coming out of school now than there used to be. Right? So things are making progress. Right? Things like this, I believe, help spark people more from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of being sparked at quarter 10 or try 8 or whatever. It's like when you turn the crank, and I mean turn the crank from the beginning, so much opens up. So much opens up. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sweet. Any last questions that you might have for me, or that you might want to connect on any topics? Because I'm kind of guiding this conversation, but I just
Mhm.
kind of want to give it back to you as just somebody who's
Yeah.
receiving this, and I'm just curious where you're coming from or what you're interested in touching on before we get off.
The biggest, like if there's one thing I can especially impart to anyone watching this, if they're still watching it at almost 30, 40 minutes, which I hope they are, it's that the world and humanity needs more great chiropractors. The world will never have enough great, awesomely tapped in, connected, conscious chiropractors. And so if you are watching this, know that the world needs you, humanity needs you, and we need you on this chiropractic team. It's like, even though, like Ben, for example, we haven't connected for a while, maybe on the span of years, but look, we've been able to pick up space and time like it wasn't like I was just in your office in Oakland no more than a week ago, right? And so there is this unspoken connection, because there's like, I mean, like Ben, you and I, like we share a deep chiropractic history, and those we've worked with, and like that's always there, right? And that tree and those roots have grown and spread into this beautiful, beautiful thing. And we welcome, and we will always invest energy and effort into those who want to live that kind of life. And this is an awesome starting point for a lot of people, Ben. So thank you for giving of your time and connecting all the people you've had on here. I know it's having, let's see, effect. and moments of inspiration for people, guiding them on the path.
Yeah, most definitely. What do you think is possible with pre-Chiro as a discipline, as a field of study, as an actual parallel program to a college education or to a preparatory experience where maybe they have 6 months, maybe they have a year to instill some good habits, maybe they're going to explore specific resources. What do you think is possible if we really build a culture around pre-Chiro?
The one word that comes to mind is an accelerant. An accelerant. It has the ability to propel people into chiropractic school, into growth, into development, to get the right habits in place, whether study habits, chiropractic training habits, self-development habits that sometimes take people years to get into in school. Pre-Chiro can get that established in place before school even starts, so that when you hit that door and start school, you're off to the races running. And I've seen people train the chiropractic art for 1 or 2 years before school even starts. And what they're able to do once they get to school and how they're able to inspire people once they get to school, it's like, oh, damn, look what you can do with just a year of training before school. Now, when you put it into a wrapper and a boundary and a container like you've created, oh man, next level.
Most definitely. And then last question for you. I'm just curious, like if we're starting a new chiropractic school, a new chiropractic presence in new countries, right? Because chiropractic was started in the US and it's really growing around the world. New schools are cropping up. What do you think about that? What do you think about the future of the profession, the state of the profession, and how the profession can grow organically, but also remain its connection to the roots?
It needs, let me see if it needs leaders who are connected to source and spirit, but also who are grounded in the earth, right? It needs those conduits to connect to its principles and not bastardize the principles, but also be very well aware of what is the current state of chiropractic and what does it take, the amount of energy and the funding that it takes to create new schools and new opportunities in other countries who might not be as well funded as the US, right? And so passion, yes, passion's kind of overused word in the chiropractic profession, I believe, but someone who is connected to its roots, right? Like go read Didi and BJ and a lot of those really early great philosophical thinkers, right? A lot of that we've kind of lost as a profession, but for those that continue to stay true to what it is and be grounded in the principles, anything is possible. Because there's the principle. It's the principle that matters, right? And the application of that principle, not watering it down, not messing it up, right? Not confusing it with something else, right? If you're confused about what a chiropractic school is or should be or what it should teach, it's not going to flourish. It's not going to flourish. Right?
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate you, brother. Is there anything any last announcements or any last topics you want to touch on? I'm trying to just squeeze all the juice out of this fruit right now.
It's all good. I welcome any chiropractic students, any pre-chiropractic students to come shadow me at my practice here at the Source Chiropractic Denver. We're in the Sunnyside neighborhood. As I'm sure a lot of the docs and facilitators are on this podcast, right? It just takes going through the discomfort of being like, oh my God, can I reach out to this doc or whatever? I want people to reach out. I want to get those messages on Instagram. I want to get those random texts saying, hey, you don't know who the hell I am, but I want to come check your practice out to see how you're doing it, right? I welcome that. I always respond. I don't just throw you into the trash bin or whatever, because I want to involve
quick question
people.
Before we get off, actually. So just to give you a really brief idea of what I'm planning to do with the pre-Chiro, it's like foundational content, and then introducing the training of like how do you train. I'm contextualizing it as I'm breaking innate into inner state, your inner scientist, your inner thinker, your inner artist, your inner teacher, your inner entrepreneur. We need to unleash that and discover that and tap into that and grow that. And then the third part is the apprenticeship. So really actually trying
Mhm.
to raise some money to hire chiropractors to facilitate an apprenticeship experience where students get to see, or pre-chiro students
Mhm.
or chiro students get to see a structured sort of back and front end of what it's like to practice. And then the fourth part is like start your own pre-chiro practice or your own pre-chiro hub instead of club, where you are the hub of the wheel at your undergraduate institution.
Mhm.
And just giving them like materials, handouts, and support on how do they market that new hub that they're starting and building a legacy. And then the fifth one is the capstone project. And that was kind of a long-winded build up to my question, but the capstone is something I'm curious what comes to mind for you if I was to ask you what's like a good independent study prompt or a good independent study capstone project for somebody who's decided they want to go become a chiropractor. And I don't know if you remember this from undergrad, but you're given an opportunity to do a thesis project or a capstone project at the end of your college or high school, and you can do whatever you want, you could study whatever you want. What would be some good prompts or maybe some good projects that we could give to pre-chiro students?
Mhm. How does chiropractic affect consciousness? How does chiropractic reorganize the central nervous system? What is universal intelligence? What is source? I mean, this is like high level shit, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like if you can take on questions like that,
Hmm.
the actual day-to-day application of chiropractic practice can become somewhat simple and easy, right? Like
Hmm.
if you can grasp these huge philosophical, like where do I fit in the grand state of things, right? Like why am I investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, sacrificing relationships or whatever, and all these things to become this? Why the hell am I doing that? Then you're on the path, right? Once you're good with those answers and you're certain, here's the thing, and you're certain and you're not wishy-washy on those answers, then you're ready to become a chiropractor. A lot of people never ask themselves those questions. And they're the people that are out there mixing in the profession, confusing acupuncture with massage and chiropractic and putting e-stim people on people for 20 minutes before an adjustment.
Hmm.
It's like, what do you want to be? Right? Do you want to be a certain chiropractor, or do you want to be just kind of wading in the waters, collecting a couple $100 here and there? Like, oh no, or do you want to be truly compensated for the gifts you've sacrificed a lot for?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Just a couple of topics.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate it. And yeah, and then the sixth step is like go and do the admissions process. So it's really all about that missed opportunity of looking at the long-term path that
Mm-hmm.
happens, that could happen, that's potentially there as an opportunity if we create that opportunity for the next generation to really look at that long road, look at the
Mm-hmm.
training, look at what it entails in depth, in detail before applying and getting
Yeah.
into school. Because I just had a neighbor down the street from me say, I didn't get into nursing school. You think I should go to chiropractic school? I'm like, man, I've been telling you to go and watch my podcast for months now. Like the answer is not going to come from me. It's going to come from you hearing some messages, you
Mm-hmm.
resonating with it, you hearing messages from multiple people over and over again that continue to resonate with you. They continue to see examples of people that are living in the way that you want to be living or living the way that you already are living, and helping you see the differences between chiropractic path and the nursing path. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's really a majority of people going into chiropractic school right now don't have experience of seeing a chiropractor or studying chiropractic. They just didn't get into the school they wanted to go to, and this is the
Don't
easiest
don't
path.
make chiropractic your fallback. If you're making chiropractic your fallback, you're not going to do this. Don't expect yourself to be successful at this if this is your fallback, right? To me, this was my only. This was my only, right? There was nothing else. This was my only. It took me years to get to that, but it was my only,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
a big question. That's a big question. Is this your end all be all, or is this your fallback? Is this your backup?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you're falling back on this, my guess is you're going to have an attitude of mediocrity with it, and you're not going to be obsessed and put it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
100%. Thank you so much, Darren. I appreciate you, brother.
Ben, thank you so much, man. Thank you for all the great questions and the facilitating this conversation. I hope it it rings true and resonates with someone who is seeking advice, seeking wisdom, seeking inspiration on the path. We touched a lot of topics, and I have a sense right now that it will definitely be impactful to a few people, maybe more than a few people. So thank you for providing a platform and the time, energy, and impetus to make this happen.